Pick up the call. What? Oh, he's calling. Oh. Hello?
Hey, how was your concert for Palestine?
Sorry?
I heard you were playing a concert for Palestine.
Sure.
Excellent, fantastic. Should
Probably from my
tankies-
chat, more likely.
Should China simps be banned? Your opinion?
When did I say that?
You said that. You said that Destiny gets banned, for example, for calling for the white nationalist mass murder of anti-racist protesters. Then it's only fair that tanky China simps should also be banned, right?
Did I say that?
Yeah, you did.
What did I say
did you
30 seconds before that clip?
In your own words.
I'm just asking you, what did I say 30 seconds before that clip?
I want you to tell me what you said. What did you mean?
So, what I meant was, okay, before that clip, the question that came up was whether or not Destiny deserved to be banned for bad community policing. I was answering a chatter. And my response was,
bad community policing
and my
entail?
response was that if that's true, then Hassan would have been banned, not for the China simping, but because he brigades LSF threads on his stream. I don't think either of those offenses should be bannable.
Why did you bring up the China simping then?
It was a tangent, and I've already addressed this. You've seen the video where I addressed this.
No, I have never seen any of your videos, and I don't plan to see any.
Didn't you comment on my Hassan one? You commented on it.
You don't need to watch the video to comment on it.
Okay. Well, yeah, in that one, I already took it back. I said that was a dumb point, yeah.
But did you say it was a dumb point because you were blaming him for the actions of his chat, or because it was a dumb point because people shouldn't be banned for liking the Chinese government?
Both.
Okay.
I'm just so curious. Would you describe yourself as someone who's good at judging other people's opinions? Do you think you've got a good grasp of that? So why do you think I'm queerphobic?
Because you had certain things that you said about how people dressing up in kink gear at pride parades is
Did I say
bad for the
kink
children.
gear? Did I say kink gear? What kind of kink gear?
I mean, we all know the photos that were being peddled around.
Which photo?
Which photo? You want a specific photo? You know exactly what I'm talking about.
I only commented on one photo, so
well,
which photo?
Should people at pride parades have to regulate themselves just in case some like right-wing, generic LGBT-phobic person takes a picture and is like...
Which photo was I talking about?
You seem to... I don't give a shit which photo you were talking about. That's a reactionary position, from just how it is.
So the photo I was talking about...
The children... Like LGBT liberation needs to cater to these ridiculous narratives of like.
If you don't know which photo I'm talking about, you can just ask. I'm not going to make fun of you for not remembering. It's a long time.
We're talking about multiple. I mean, this is not just one photo we're talking about here.
I only commented on one photo.
That whole idiotic debate was centered around not just one photo, like an entire narrative. Okay.
And I only commented on one photo.
There are plenty of photos that are put forward to further that narrative. Okay, which photo? Link it to me.
The one of the guys who were doing puppy play and having a girl pet them.
Okay.
Do you think puppy play is typically accepted in public by BDSM communities?
Do you think taking one singular photo like that and essentially denouncing the entire idea of the whole concept of people, being kinky at a pride parade?
Did I dismiss the entire concept of people being kinky at Pride? I don't give a fuck about people doing kink at Pride. What, bondage? Yeah, I don't give a shit. Of course, that's reactionary bullshit. I was commenting on puppy play. I was commenting on puppy play in front of kids. Do you think that's acceptable to do in front of kids?
Isn't that photo like with kids or in front of kids? Because the kids shouldn't fucking be there.
Well, yeah, the kid was there. So you agree? You agree that you shouldn't do puppy play with kids? Yeah.
I think the problem is that someone brought kids there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nothing more.
So why do you think I said that this was a bad idea?
If you bring fucking kids to an overtly sexual event, that's your fault. It's not the fault of anyone else who just happens to be there.
Well, why do you think I said it was a bad idea at the time? That particular...
I don't fucking know or care.
Because people were defending it.
Well, why did you retweet? Why did you retweet like a straight up settler colonialism advocate?
Are you dodging the question? I'm sorry. Wait, so do you think I'm a queerphobic reactionary or not?
None of this matters. I'm here to talk about politics, not like personal accusations against you. Well, I honestly don't give a shit about personal accusations against you.
Calling me queerphobic is a political stance, right?
Yeah, and we just went over it, and you clarified that you agree with me on that. What don't we agree on? That's something much more interesting.
So I'm not queerphobic, or I am?
At least in that way, no, you're not.
Thanks. Okay. Why do you think I'm pro necrophilia? I don't know about your politics,
so I can't really tell.
Why do you think I'm pro necrophilia?
Because it's funny. You're a necrophiliac. Why not?
So okay. So it's all just a meme, right? You're going to back off these claims because they're memes.
You're not going to back off a single thing that you've said about me. Why should I back off any of this? Do you think like anyone calls anyone a necrophiliac seriously?
What have I said about you that I'm not going to back up?
This is like this thing, like people take everything incredibly fucking seriously. Like people levy the most ridiculous claims against me. I don't take them seriously, like even a little bit, right?
Okay.
You do that to me. I don't take that shit seriously. I'm much more concerned with the sentiment behind it, right? I'm not so particularly concerned with my own reputation.
I'm just asking you questions.
People are going to say whatever the fuck they want about you.
I'm
more concerned with the actual politics behind these.
Well, when I get comments from people in your community saying, I'm really upset about your kink at Pride take because they heard it from you. Yeah.
That literally makes no sense. Where did they hear that from me?
I've got the tweet up on my screen.
From like a Twitter account with 2,000 followers?
Yeah, I don't know if you said it more times.
If anyone comes to me like I'm really fucking
I do agree that people
you just Jesus man, you shouldn't care.
I do agree that people who believe what you say about people should not take you seriously. Yeah, I completely agree with that. But anyway.
Okay. I think that no one should take you seriously in general as a so-called political commentator.
What have I said that is such a big problem?
Is Kyle Rittenhouse a white supremacist spree killer?
I don't think he's a spree killer. Is that a legal term? I think he's probably a white supremacist. Yeah, if he wasn't back then, he's definitely on his way to becoming one. Yeah.
Why should we feel sympathy for him? Because he cried some crocodile tears in the stand?
I didn't say I should feel sympathy for him. I was making fun of him on my streams when that was happening. I said that you shouldn't judge whether or not he was fake crying because that's like, okay.
Why not?
Because how do you know? There are like a million good criticisms.
Or if he's real crying, he should cry. He should cry for the rest of his life, every single day, every single moment.
There are a million criticisms you can make of Kyle Rittenhouse. The fake crying was dumb. Like it was like what? Like it's just, how much understanding of PTSD do you have to think that someone fake crying?
He has PTSD. He has PTSD from murdering anti-racist protesters.
Even if we believe,
fuck yes. Good.
Okay,
more PTSD for people like him.
Do you want to back up the claim that he murdered them? You don't think it was self-defense?
Oh my God, we going full Destiny mode here.
Just tell me.
Fucking Destiny mode.
Do you think Destiny was the only person who thinks he was doing self-defense?
I think everyone who thinks that he's a moronic liberal piece of shit. Yeah.
Do you want to talk to me or do you want to talk to Destiny?
I know that you're essentially like a Destiny suck-up. Like your whole thing is that you have moderated your opinions to the point where you've become right-wing. Because you're trying to suck up to right-wing people.
Okay,
hence you deleted your Bolivia video because David Pacman is Destiny's friend, and you didn't want to have a video on your channel now that you're trying to get into the Destiny sphere. That is too.
Brother, I deleted that video because the audio was bad. You think my fucking videos after that are not incredibly left-wing?
I am sure. Just because the audio was bad.
I have videos where I criticize Destiny. What are you talking about?
No. There's criticism, right? There's criticism, as if someone like Destiny deserves good faith criticism. He deserves denouncement, okay?
So you're upset that I don't hate Destiny enough?
This is the thing with the liberals. Yes, absolutely. You should hate people like that. You've heard what he said.
What, about Kyle Rittenhouse not being a murderer? Or do you want to stay on that topic? Because you seem to be running away from it a little bit. Can you prove to me that he wasn't a murderer? If you can't, if you want to prove that he was a murderer,
see, this is this thing that people like you do, right? Where you like say that you agree with people on something, but nonetheless, you try and insist on arguing that point, right? And we're not going to do that. This is what you people
do. The problem is that I'm arguing on points. You think he's a murderer, back it up. Can you not back that up? If you can't, we can move on.
I don't give a shit if he's a murderer or not. Technically, legally, within the United States legal system.
You can say moral. We can make a moral claim as well.
Okay. What's your opinion of this?
My opinion of Kyle Rittenhouse.
No. We're going to play a clip. I would like to ask you if you think the person who said this deserves you spending 2 hours defending them.
Brother, are you actually like running away from the claim now? Again.
I think we said, right? I don't give a shit if Kyle Rittenhouse is a murderer or not within the technical US legal system that was
or morally
set up by a bunch
I don't care about the fucking law. I'm asking morally.
Oh, absolutely. He went to a fucking protest with a rifle, an anti-racist protest with a rifle.
Okay, what would have
intentionally got into a fight to try and justify.
Why do you think he intentionally got into a fight?
Is there you walk up to him with a rifle? You walk up to a bunch of people with a rifle.
Who did he walk up to with a rifle? Who did he approach with a rifle?
Holy shit. Holy shit, Lonerbox. You are exactly what I thought you were. Incredible.
What?
Fucking incredible.
You can tell me.
Debate throwing in the white supremacist spree murder. Amazing.
What? So you are insisting that he was a murderer now?
You are amazing. I literally was insisting he was a murderer the entire time.
You have no argument for this. Okay, he wasn't. Was he running away or towards?
The rioting needs to fucking stop. And if that means like white redneck fucking militia dudes out there mowing down dipshit protesters that think that they could torch buildings at 10 p.m., then at this point they have my fucking blessing, because holy shit, this fucking shit needs to stop. It needed to stop a long time ago. Like, holy fuck. The rioting needs to fucking stop.
Opinions?
Yeah, he got 2-week ban for that and he deserved it. Yeah.
Permanently banned for it. Do you think what people who call for the white supremacist mass murder of anti-racist protests deserve you spending 2 hours defending them?
Did I defend him for 2 hours?
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
The video is 45 minutes, but okay, I guess accuracy isn't really your strong point.
Who gives a shit? Oh shit, 45 minutes, man. That's so different.
What was I defending about him?
Well, you compare.
What was the ratio of criticisms to defenses? Do you know? Have you seen this video? Have you seen this 2-hour video where I defend Destiny?
You equated that guy with people who quote unquote simp for China. Do you think that might not be a very proportional comparison?
Do you think I holistically compared him to, like, again, you're just taking a clip. You haven't seen the video.
I don't give a shit if you holistically compared him. I'm asking.
Like, you just said that I did, but you're walking back on that as well. Keep going.
Do you think that? Yeah, you did say that. You walked it back later, maybe. But I'm asking you now, just to confirm.
What's the question?
Do you think that that guy right there is equivalent to people who like the Chinese government?
No, I think his comments are worse than people who like the Chinese government. Yeah.
Thank you. Far worse. Right. I'm glad we're on the same page there. Good to know. Now, do you think that aristocracy is a person who merits your defense?
You realize you've walked back on every single claim you've made against me so far.
I'm interviewing you.
Oh, this is an interview now? Because you changed the debate topic like 7 different times. But okay.
My stream title is interview.
Okay.
This is an interview.
Why did you change the debate topic 3 different times?
Well, you changed it. I wasn't intending to talk about whatever the fuck that was.
What did I when did I change the topic?
We don't have a debate topic, do we? We don't have any topic.
All right, go to the next question then.
Wasn't like the whole thing that got us into this, like, China and Palestine?
Palestine probably more so, right?
Okay.
You got really fucking mad at that Twitter thread that I did.
Do you think that she deserves your defense?
Oh yeah, yeah. She's a great voice on Israel Palestine. Yeah.
Oh wait. Okay, wait. Is that sarcastic?
Nope.
Okay, I'm gonna play another clip, 3 minutes long here. Okay, is that okay with you?
Why don't we just talk about some of the sections?
No. I want to show you what she said because I think you can
do your out of context fucking clip chimp bullshit. Okay, go for it.
Out of 30-second long clips where she states that this is her opinion. Out of context clip shit bullshit.
Go on.
If you can get 30 seconds of me stating something that isn't obviously a joke like this, right? At that point, you can't call it a clip chimp. It's someone stating their opinion. So let's play this. I think your audience deserves to know that this person, you just said that she's an awesome advocate for Palestine.
Oh, yeah.
I know many Palestinians, and none of them have ever said that to me about anything resembling this, okay?
You don't think she has Palestinians in her audience? Just send the clip.
Like 2 of them.
Send the clip. Go on.
God. Yeah, sure.
I can't hear anything. I can't hear.
You do a population exchange, it's very hard to reverse the change because you basically just recreate the problem even worse when you try to reverse it. And this is one of the problems with the Palestinians having the right to return, because they want to take up space. They want to, come return, and they're a much larger population now. I don't think Palestinians can ever get the right of return because, as Vox mentioned, there's over 7 million. Those 700,000 have now become 7 million in terms of their descendants. I don't think that's ever. There's no room. They can't come there, and Israel still remain a majority state. So the only solution to me is, if you think that Israel is the cause of the refugee problem, are financial reparations. And Israel does not actually have as much money as a lot of people think. We'd all love to get to an area where, ethnicity, religion, and all that stuff matters very little. But to me, it's kind of crazy to expect people to be like, well, you guys have to accept everyone, and then watch that majority population turn it into an Arab pan state where Jews become second-class citizens. Saying, okay, like, you guys should just have to deal with that, right? You could just have to take the hit so you have the moral headway. It makes sense in a world where there are tons of ethnic and national and religious states, right? To at least have one for your own where you're safe, at least for just one country.
This is like the most chopped up shit I've ever heard.
And this is why I get really scared that Israel is going to become an apartheid state. And all those lefties are going to turn out to be right when they criticize Israel, calling it apartheid. Because if they keep building the settlement and more settlements happen, it's going to be more and larger of a human rights disaster to pull out and to get rid of the Jews from the region and give them back to the Palestinians. That means that the only solution you're going to have is a one-state solution where everything becomes an Israeli state. The big problem with that is that for Israel to continue to exist as Israel and not just, become a non-Jewish state, and that's just a typical Arab country in the Middle East with an Arab majority population, Israel, and to remain with Western values and all those things, Jews need to remain the majority of the population. It's a hard place to live, especially when compared to other Western countries. It's very expensive, and there's very little space. The idea of like a 3-bedroom house, you don't get that shit in Israel. You do not get a 3-bedroom house in Israel. That is something that is only allowed for the rich, the very, very rich. In Israel, the most you will get is a shitty apartment. Everyone lives in shitty apartments. So the only place you're going to get a house, if you want a house and you want your kids to be able to have green space and be able to run, is in the settlements.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, so opinions. Do you agree with that?
Do you want to break down those points? Like, I can hear the clips within that. That's not like a singular clip, right?
Break down those points. One.
I can hear where you broke up the clips. Why did you do that?
Why? Because these are different different states.
So I don't know. So in each of those clips, I don't know what she said 30 seconds before or after,
you're
right?
And these are spliced together, right? You're saying that I took different sentence structures and put them together.
Yeah.
No, that's just her microphone having like a mute threshold, right?
Okay.
Like mine does.
I don't believe you.
Most of those are 40 seconds. You don't believe? Have you watched the video?
Yeah.
You don't believe?
No, I haven't watched the video,
your defense here is that
I've watched one of them, but
these
not that
clips
one.
are not actually 40, 30-second long clips of her talking. Is that your defense?
That was more than, was that 40 seconds?
Each of those was about 30, 35 seconds long.
And then spliced together, right?
They were not spliced together at all. We've been over this a million times.
So this is actually like a 2 or 3 minute clip that you just showed me, right?
Each of those is about 30 to 35 seconds long.
Okay.
At different states.
Do you want to just break this up one thing at a time? There were a few topics I covered there, right? Right of return, apartheid.
We said, okay, do you think that Palestinian refugees should not be allowed to return to their homes because there is no room?
That's not Aristocracy's position. I spoke to her yesterday about this.
That's what she said.
Do you think she might have been saying that it's inactionable but is still morally right, which is the opinion of quite a lot of Palestinians?
She said they can't come here. There's no room.
Do you think that's her opinion or her characterizing other people's opinions?
That's her opinion. She literally said, I think, to me. That's what people say when it's their opinion.
Okay, given the fact that you haven't been able to characterize a single one of my positions, why the fuck would I believe what you have to say about her?
I mean, this is literally her in her own words saying
you've already backed off.
Heard her stating it in her own words.
You've already backed off on me being queerphobic. You've already backed off on me being a necrophile. You've already backed on me fucking defending a murderer.
You are a necrophile. I never backed off of that. You're my favorite British necrophile.
Given that Eris is not in the room with us right now, why don't we talk about yours and my opinions of Israel-Palestine.
No. I want to know, because you being a responsible advocate for Palestine requires you denouncing these absolutely abhorrent fucking Nazi-like positions.
Listen.
So why don't you?
Maybe I'll have a chat with her later. If she believes those things that she was, which I think is her characterizing other people's opinions, yeah, I won't retweet her again.
How is it her characterizing her own opinions when she says, I think to me?
She said, I think in like one of those statements.
You quite literally retweeted me quoting her saying that it's anti-Semitic for me to quote her. You retweeted that. Is it anti-Semitic?
Wait. Why did I call you anti-Semitic?
You quoted her calling me anti-Semitic.
Wasn't it because...
And her evidence of me being anti-Semitic was me quoting her, literally.
Listen, don't worry, okay? If I ever call you anti-Semitic, it's because you say things like, responding to someone who says, I was born in Israel and never left, what should be done to me? And you respond with wall. Colonizers get the wall.
Yeah,
I think that sounds anti-Semitic to me, yeah.
That guy is how is that anti-Semitic in the first place, for one? Are settler colonialists automatically... is colonizer?
Do you think everyone who was born in Israel is a settler colonialist?
Everyone who is born in Israel as part of the settler colonial Israeli state and its ethno-nationalist project is obviously a settler colonialist. Question for you: is Israel a settler colonial state?
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Okay, so it's a settler colonial state with no settlers. Is that what you're telling me?
No, I just don't think everyone in Israel is a settler. No.
Everyone.
How do you define it? Can you just tell me? So everyone born in Israel, okay? That's what you're giving me right now.
Have you read anything on settler
colonialism? Say like a Jewish refugee who came over in like 1918. Is that like a settler colonialist?
The idea of the Jews being a nationality that needs to colonize this one specific place.
That's the state of Israel you're characterizing. You're not characterizing the people who live there. You're characterizing the state of Israel when you say that.
Yeah, it is. Do you not realize that there was an entire movement of settler colonialism in the late 19th century, right? Mm-hmm. That led to the creation of the state of Israel, right? So many of the people...
Go on. I'm joking. Go on.
You've never heard of it. Yeah, I know you haven't. I know you're joking, but I already know you don't really know much about it, right?
Okay.
So this was, from the very beginning, this was the intention of this movement, right? There were Jews who were already there beforehand, but the intention of this movement was always to go there to misplace the original population and to form their own ethno-state, okay?
Okay.
Sure, there were people who moved there before that who didn't really give a shit about that. But regardless, once the actual act of creating the state of Israel happened, they ended up becoming Israeli settlers regardless, because they're a part of the settler colonial state. They uphold it.
So just by virtue of, so as like a Palestinian who lives in Israel, would you like, I'm so curious actually then, because
in Israel do not consider themselves Israelis. Israel doesn't even consider there to be an Israeli nationality.
Yeah, so they call themselves, Palestinian as like a solidarity, but they are Israeli citizens, right?
I mean, indigenous people all over the world accept the citizenship of the country they happen to live in. It's just because they're taking whatever limited rights are available to them. It's not because, they're like saying, oh, I'm a settler or whatever, I uphold this state. It's not the same thing.
So, but the Jewish people who lived in Israel since the Arab Wars and just stayed there and their families stayed there, but because they live in Israel by virtue of them staying in Israel.
Wars? 1948?
Sure, yeah. Or whatever the
Palestinians themselves make a distinction between, people who trace their lineage to this. I don't give a shit about really lineage. I think you need to understand that this distinction between, settler, colonizer, indigenous, or whatever. It's not a moral distinction. I'm an Australian settler, right?
Okay.
It's not a moral distinction. It's a material one. It's like saying, oh, you can't call this guy a bourgeois because his father, he inherited a factory from his dad. Yeah, you can actually.
So I'm curious, if we're talking about like tracing, so I guess your right of return kind of thing starts like 1948, right? Like basically.
Well, that's when people started to be expelled.
Yeah. So what do you think of the Sheikh Jarrah decision? Do you think that was the correct decision?
It's literally just like the colonial power, imposing a random laws in its
answer to that specific point, please.
That created justify. It's just. Do you think that I need to make an evaluation over like Israeli land tenure laws or whatever? I don't give a shit.
It wasn't about land laws. Can you do you know the specific? If you don't know the specific case, it's okay. I can just tell you.
Sheikh Jarrah was justified on the basis that Jews bought the land like 100 years ago, and then the Israeli state gave them the right to this land under its legal system, whereas the people who lived there had been living there continuously.
That's not what happened. They found, well, wasn't it with the case with a couple of families? They found out that the house was originally a Jewish home that was where they were evicted during the Nakba.
I'm sure there's probably at least one or two of those, but the thing is, we're talking about Jerusalem here.
Yes, Easter. So do you think that was the right decision then, given that it was a right of return from 1948 to a Jewish family?
I mean, it really depends on which house we're talking about. We're talking about a bunch of different houses in Sheikh Jarrah.
Okay.
If that specific house, then sure.
So the Palestinians deserve to be kicked out of those places because of what happened in 1948?
I mean, it really depends. Do you think that I
No,
think
wait.
that all
Did the
all Jews
Palestinians
should
who
be
lived
kicked out
in
of
Sheikh Jarrah
Israel?
deserve to be kicked out because there were
Are
Jews living there in
Are
48?
you trying to justify settler colonialism based on this little one example?
No, I'm not trying to justify it. I'm asking you what you think because I'm asking about your concept of right of return.
Is this one little Palestinian house? Is this one little Palestinian house part of a much broader project of settler colonialism of forming an ethno-state for one people?
I'm asking you about how you action right of return.
What I'm saying here is very relevant to this because we're talking about two different things here. I'm talking about projects of settler colonialism. You're talking about like the most basic like capitalist land rights. Okay, you're trying to.
It's not capitalist land rights. They were driven out by the same mechanisms that the Palestinians were driven out of.
The same mechanisms. Or
at the same time.
The Palestinians were never trying to form an ethno-state there. The Palestinians did not migrate there en masse with the specific intention of displacing the original inhabitants and forming their own society on the ruins.
All the same.
You're equating two things that are not even remotely the same.
I'm not equating. They were kicked out.
You consider yourself a responsible advocate for Palestine?
They were kicked out.
Kicking people, there's a difference between kicking people out, right? Kicking people out in a war incited by a settler colonial ethno-state, okay? And kicking people out in the name of forming that settler colonial ethno-state. These are two very different things. It's like complaining that, white settlers on a homestead, which was appropriated from Native Americans, were kicked out of that homestead. Is that bad? Maybe. But is it part of a wider project of settler colonization? Absolutely not. These aren't two things. These aren't the same sorts of things. And I'm not going to let you equate them.
I'm just asking you what you think. Do you think it was the right decision to kick those Palestinian families out?
No.
Why?
I don't think that you're trying to equate it. You're doing this debate bro bullshit, right? Where you just ask questions for things that you yourself have an opinion on. So what's your own opinion here? What are you trying to lead to?
The point that what you're calling right of return, like full unconditional right of return, is inactionable and would result in Palestinians being kicked out as well.
You're against right of return. You're against right of return. You're against right of return. Holy shit, I'd love for you to talk to a Palestinian about this.
I am very in favor of right of return. I'm asking you how you think it's actionable.
You're clearly not.
Do you think there's a difference between being for something morally and deciding whether or not it's actionable?
Actionable, like literally right now? These are goals to work towards. These aren't things that we literally are going to do literally immediately.
I agree.
Do you think like if someone advocates for the one-state solution, they need to be doing it? You're going to be like, oh, you can't do it literally right now, therefore owned or something.
You know what's really funny? So for example, okay, let's just say hypothetically, you're offered like two-state solution with two-state solution, 67, 48 borders, whatever, and then on top of that,
I don't care what I'm offered. I care what
I'm asking you a hypothetical.
I'm
asking you. Well, polling is kind of like up and down on two-state solution, right?
Not really.
It's been in the decline because of the settlements in West Bank, but it's still there, right?
Do most Palestinians consider all of the land of Palestine to be theirs? They do.
But when they talk about policy and what to do now, they support two-state solution, right? There's still a substantial number of people in the polls.
20, 30 years ago when that was a thing that might have been possible. Right now, the compromise is, the most recent poll that I saw was like from last year, the compromise position was like 25%, 33% or something like that. And the majority was for essentially waiting it out. Now, it doesn't really matter because what I wanted to get into with quoting that aristocracy thing,
sure.
You realize she's using Nazi rhetoric, straight up Nazi rhetoric. Space, room.
No, I'd rather you just spoke to me because I don't think you're capable of accurately
No,
characterizing people's
I think
positions.
it's very important that someone who tries to hold themselves up as some sort of beacon of Palestinian advocacy is actually a responsible advocate for Palestine and rightfully fucking ostracizes people like this.
Wait, if that's the case, then why
Palestine is non-negotiable?
Why
it's very simple. You can't be friends with people like this. You can't invite them into their communities. You can't raid them while they're trying to smear. Another advocate for Palestine is an anti-Semite.
You know what's really interesting is that like when I was so I only watched one Eris video. It was like 20 minutes long. She was asked by one of her chatters recommending authors to speak about it. One of the main authors she recommended was Ilan Pappé. Why the fuck would a Nazi settler recommend Ilan Pappé?
In the video that I watched, the one that I quote, all those quotes were from, she literally said, "Don't read Ilan Pape, read Benny Morris instead."
She did not say that. She's always recommended Ilan Pape. Okay. And for Benny Morris, she says he was good in the past, but is not anymore. You've got your clip.
No, she says his politics are bad, but his history is great. I haven't cut the clip. I'm just going straight to it.
Okay. Do you think this might have been in a particular topic?
It was on the Nakba.
Okay. Isn't that because Ilan Pape doesn't consider some of the villages to be ethnic cleansings?
She said it was because he doesn't ground his statements in evidence or whatever, even though he's constantly being proven right.
Yeah, no, Pape was criticized for the Nakba because he didn't, apparently he didn't go far enough, didn't he? My memory's a bit scattered, but like apparently
as far as I know,
because
Benny Morris was criticized for the Nakba for saying that it was ethnic cleansing and also it was good.
Okay. You're still not answering
I'm not
my
going to
question.
go for 2 hours through this, but
why would she recommend Ilan Pape if she was, because Ilan Pape is full on one-state solution.
Right?
No, I'm not. I'm asking you about something she said.
You can recommend someone's historiography without agreeing with their political opinion. She doesn't want the one-state solution. She doesn't want that. She wants a Jewish.
Well, she told me last night that she's in favor of one-state solution, just not immediately the same way you are.
These things.
Wait, do you think she's lying to me? Do you think she's deceiving me?
Things, right? Oh yeah, she's absolutely. She's the kind of person who adapts her opinions to what she thinks her audience wants. When she sees backlash, she changes immediately.
Oh, that's because
that's what happened here.
Duplicitous. Yeah, okay, go on.
Yeah, she literally stated that in that video. She didn't seem to think that any of it was bad or wrong.
Okay.
Until she was called out on it. And then she just said, "Oh, I'm being taken out of context."
So we clearly don't agree on what her position is. That's fine. She's not here. Maybe you should just talk to me.
I want to know. Do you think that someone talking about how there's no space, no room, etc., might be using Nazi rhetoric?
Do you know there's no space in Israel for like the entire population of New York Jews to go there? That would be the same problem, right?
No space. There's no space, so they must take more space from the Palestinians. That's why settlers.
Well, that's a bit of inference, isn't it?
A nice 3-bedroom house with open space.
That's a little bit of inference, isn't it?
That's what she said.
But you haven't said whether or not. Did she say "I think" before that one? Did she say "This is my opinion" before that?
Yeah, she did. She said "I think this is my opinion." She said this multiple times. Like, to me, they can't return.
Do you think if like the entire population of New York Jews, nearly 2 million of them, wanted to go to Israel tomorrow, do you think there would be space for that?
Should I be? No, I don't think that they should be able to go there because
do you think there's space somewhere
because because the state there thinks that you're of the right ethnicity to do so.
You can't answer a single fucking question. It's fucking exhausting. Oh my god, is there space for them or not in Israel?
Is there space? Yeah. Absolutely, there's absolutely space.
You think 2 million New York Jews could arrive in Israel tomorrow and that would be fine? That would be actionable, right?
Do you think they would arrive tomorrow? Do you think do you think that all 6 million refugees would arrive immediately or would even want to? All 6 million would arrive immediately all at once. And if you don't think that they could all arrive immediately all at once, then you have been destroyed.
Well, that's why
no space.
That's why because like I think only 5% of Palestinians were polled, and they said that they would go to an equally nice home in Israel rather than stay in Palestine. Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah. What?
What's your point?
My point is that when you talk about right of return,
Palestine.
When you talk about,
I think you use these terms differently to how Palestinians use them.
Oh, because I use the word Israel. Okay, yeah, that's yeah. Do you think
Palestinians consider Israel to be?
Do you think like Abbas and like Arafat are like Zionists when they acknowledge that Israel exists?
I think that Palestinians consider a lot of them to be essentially.
Do you think that Arafat and Abbas are being Zionists when they acknowledge that Israel exists?
I think that Abbas is practically.
Do you think he's a Zionist?
Like unanimously recognized among Palestinians as a traitor.
I know, but I'm asking you, do you think he's a Zionist?
Yeah, exactly. So shut the fuck up. Why are you citing him?
Do you think he's a Zionist for believing that?
I think he's a collaborator.
Why do you have to be a Jew to be a Zionist? Is that the only difference? Like,
who said you have to be a Jew?
Well, because Abbas is holding like a similar Abbas's position on two-state solution is not that far off of Erris's in the immediate, right? Because Abbas is
a corrupt piece of shit who will say whatever the fuck he thinks he needs to say in order to maintain his own power and keep the Palestinian people down.
And this is also like a sizable number of Palestinians who still want to save the two-state solution, right?
Palestinians do not want to save the two-state solutions. There is a small minority group of Palestinians, around 33% right now, who think essentially that they can never defeat Israel, right? And do you think that like Israel essentially being merciful in victory is the right thing to aim for here? Because I think a beaten down population is obviously going to be at least a little bit likely to like just accept whatever scraps they can get. That doesn't mean that that is the good thing that we should be aiming for, or they should be aiming for.
I agree. What?
Yeah, so why bring this up? What's your overarching point?
Because when you say you've moved away from right of return pretty far. Like, what kind of right of return do you mean then? There are like 4 different meanings of right of return. Like, what do you mean? What do you want to do in this situation, like right now?
Well, any refugee who can prove, or in some way prove that they had some sort of, or their family had some sort of, abode in Palestine should be able to return.
Okay.
What's wrong with that?
And as in like, so obviously this is not inactionable anytime soon. We both know that.
How is it inactionable? Do you understand these things are processes? It's not like you just open the borders, come in right now.
Yeah, which is why there's like different.
The formation of Israel was also a process.
So there are different degrees.
Forming one state will also be a process.
So
these are things that will take place over decades, not like literally immediately.
So there are different versions of right of return, right? There's like, there's this symbolic that was offered at Camp David. There's like the internal/external. There's the Geneva version, which is where you get Israel to recognize right of return, and then you accept also that it's going to be a long process.
Israel recognizing or whatever.
Oh, so you just want to like, I suppose like muscle Israel into accepting right of return and I guess abolishing itself.
I think first you muscle Israel into not existing.
Okay, you want Israel to not exist. How do you want to do that?
Yeah.
How?
Absolutely.
How?
Well, the same international pressure that makes Israel exist can also be levied against it to make it not exist. Very simple. Right.
So you want a nuclear power that believes it has God's right to be on that land is going to be convinced by the international community. Given that Israel has like been very gradually moving itself out of American dependence, right? Can you just elaborate on that? I just want to hear this plan. Go on.
Very gradually moving itself. Israel is not only propped up by the USA for one; it's propped up by all.
But I think the USA is propping up kind of
even
helps,
China,
right?
Even China. The thing is, in order for this to happen, it's going to take a very long time of first convince, and this is why we are important. This is why you are important, and why it's very disappointing that you prop up people like aristocracy, because we need to be gradually working towards this. And the way that we do that is by changing the positions of our own governments first, because the only way that it's going to happen without like a massive fucking war is through international pressure.
Yeah, that's why I think advocacy is a lot more easily done when you don't run on Twitter puffing your chest about how all Israelis are colonizers who deserve the wall. Yeah.
Do you think that me denouncing a guy who's straight up
you're not denouncing, you're calling him
and shit? Yeah, he's a colonizer. He's a colonizer. All Israelis are colonizers.
So he does. All Israelis deserve the wall.
If they support
you can't say that
settler colonialism and the terrorist IDF, sure, why not?
They just deserve the wall.
Yeah, sure, why not? If they support the fucking literal IDF, the SS of our age,
wait,
absolutely.
You said all Israelis, now we're saying ones who support the IDF. You realize these are different people,
The guy who you're referring to here was straight up defending the fucking IDF and advocating for Israeli settler colonialism.
So
you're focusing on my tone, right? You're just trying to tone police me. Tone policing.
That's not a tone, that's a moral statement that you've changed. Person. First it was all Israelis, now it's Israelis who support the IDF. Which one is it?
You said all Israelis.
You said colonizers get the wall. I guess if Israelis are colonizers, right?
I'm allowed to say anything, whatever superlative terms I feel like when I see someone with absolutely fucking awful views.
And I'm allowed to ask you to justify your claims. Is it Israelis deserve the wall, or is it supporters of the IDF who deserve the wall?
Well, here's what I think is going to happen, right? Or it should happen. There needs to be an absolutely massive cultural shift in Israeli society. And anyone, I mean, we can use the liberal framework of human rights. For this, it works. Any human rights violator, any human rights abuser, anyone even remotely connected to that gets tried and put into prison for life. Sounds great to me. Does it sound
remotely
good to you?
Connected to that? That is
yeah,
just
absolutely.
So an Israeli who criticizes the IDF but still lives there for whatever reason, that would be complicit, right?
No.
Okay. Why not?
I
thought you said that that's what they were doing. They're propping up the state. They're paying taxes.
Do you think that when some guy shows up on fucking Twitter or whatever, and he's like, "Oh man, I love the IDF. I love settler colonialism," then I'm not allowed to just call him a piece of shit. I'm not allowed to say that you're a fucking colonizer. Get the fuck out of here.
It's not that you called him a piece of shit. It's that you said he deserves the wall.
He does.
Okay.
Absolutely.
But
just
not
like
all Israelis deserve the wall,
anyone
right?
advocates for Nazi settler colonialism deserves the wall too. What's
But
the meaningful difference
People
here?
who... Do you think Eris deserves the wall?
Is she an advocate for settler colonialism? Is she colonizing land? Does she support continuing to colonize this land?
You tell me.
I think she doesn't even live there. Honestly, I'm not even sure if.
But you think she's supporting them? You think she's supporting a Jewish ethno
She's a
state in
fucking
Israel?
anime. She's literally an anime. Her name's not even Eris.
Don't walk away from the fucking claim.
You're complaining about me bullying a fucking ventriloquist dummy.
You said.
Give me a break.
I'm asking you if she deserves the wall.
I
According to your rules, she
intensive
probably.
re-education.
You think she needs intensive re-education
Absolutely.
in a camp?
I mean, you call it a camp, whatever you want. Prison. Denazification was a thing, you understand.
Sure.
What was that bad?
In
I
Finland.
think you didn't go far enough.
Okay.
Denazification
So
didn't go far enough.
just to be clear,
And in settler colonial societies,
you do believe the aristocracy deserves the wall, right?
no.
Or re-education.
It really depends.
Yeah.
I think she's already being bullied pretty well into dialing back all of her actual beliefs. Sounds good enough for me.
Nice. All right. How do we action the right of return or the abolition of Israel? How do we do that?
Didn't we just go over this?
What, BDS? Like what? What? A nuclear power?
Well, BDS is like individualistic, consumeristic boycott, right? It obviously
doesn't
does
have
also
to be consumeristic. You can do it from a university. You can,
yeah. But I'm saying what BDS amounts to now is that. So, it doesn't matter if every single fucking one of us stops buying, Israeli products or whatever, or they stop giving pressure people into not giving concerts in Israel. The only thing that's going to matter is pressuring the most powerful governments in the world to do something, to not even really do something about it, just to withdraw support from Israel, to start actually denouncing it rather than just denouncing it, every now and again. Oh, like, shit, is Israel killed a journalist? We are very concerned with the human rights, whatever, blah, 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 blah. That's nowhere near good enough. That's not, that's nothing, right? You can be like,
I'm just going to ask you the same question when you're done, by the way.
Bad. Yeah, okay, then you're not listening at all. You're just going to ask, if you're just going to ask me the same question, you're not going to adapt it, you're not going to think about what I'm saying, then it's obvious.
Well, it's because you don't have an answer. It's because you know that getting a nuclear power to abolish itself is not going to happen.
Are you aware that's literally happened?
How?
The USSR.
Okay.
South Africa.
Right.
Like, did you think that was a gotcha?
I'm still asking you how you expect Israel to do it. How do you expect Israel to do it?
Like, what do you mean, how do you expect Israel to do it? Do you think they're gonna, like, Israel is gonna be the same as it is now and they're gonna go down bombing everyone?
I mean, given that they're kind of run by religious fanatics, probably. Yeah.
They're not actually run by quote unquote religious fanatics. A lot of them are secular fanatics.
Okay.
But South Africa was run by the same sorts of racial fanatics. International pressure brought down apartheid. Now a black government is in power. Why can't we do the same thing here?
Did South Africa have... I actually know this. You can tell me. I thought South Africa ended its nuclear program in 1989.
South Africa ended... No, yeah, they ended the nuclear program before allowing black people the right to vote for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But the fact is, they didn't go down launching nukes as you were sort of implying they would there. So there's an example. There's examples of international pressure, right? South Africa went from like massive support across like the EU, the US held that until the end, but across like most of the most powerful countries in the world over the course of like 20, 30 years to essentially being bullied into giving up power.
So we probably have
why can't that happen in Israel?
We have to disarm Israel probably before getting the...
We didn't disarm South Africa.
Well, they ended their weapon program.
They agreed to end apartheid.
Okay.
They ended the weapon program during the end of the white supremacist regime.
Do you think there might be a difference?
Because they didn't want black people to have weapons.
Do you think there might be a difference between a state giving equal rights to abolishing itself? That these might be different standards?
Well, yeah, there is. That's why this is much, much better because the civil rights framework of like ending apartheid didn't work. It's not going to work in Palestine either.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just literally say, oh, you have equal rights now without rectifying any of the actual material actions that made Palestinians as oppressed and downtrodden as they are today. The same thing didn't work in the US either. Didn't work in South Africa.
So neither the USSR nor South Africa are entire like countries
the USSR
abolishing themselves.
State, though. The USSR was an entire country
the
that
state
abolished itself.
and the country are different things, though, right? Like the country of Russia state.
It's like saying the UK, right, isn't a state. Obviously, the UK is also a country. You can call it whatever you want. You can nitpick however the fuck you want.
So it's not just Israel as a state.
There are actually examples from history, right? So you're against the one-state solution because you think it's like, do you think the only possible one-state solution is one where like Israel is still in power or something?
No, I'm in favor of a binational one-state solution.
Okay,
that
then
seems to be the most convincing one I've heard of.
You yourself are in favor of exactly what I'm advocating for here, the abolishment of Israel. Because a binational state obviously wouldn't be Israel.
Yeah, that wouldn't be the state of Israel, but it would still be like a place that's kind of like Israel, right? Like there'd still be a place. Like it's binational, right? Two nations. That's probably going to be like, I don't know the details.
Binational refers to binationality.
Okay, yeah.
Not so much this is Israel, this is Palestine. Because what's the point of having two states that are nominally united if they're essentially still two separate states?
Well, that's where you get like a million different versions. But okay, yeah, binational, fine. And I'm just curious though, like if you hear people advocating for two-state solutions, do you just think that's like basically them being as good as Zionists then? Because I don't see why like someone like Eris who advocates for a two-state solution plus reparations.
She advocates for a two-state solution because she believes in Israel, the existence of Israel as a Jewish ethno-state.
She does not believe in it as a Jewish ethno-state.
Do you want me to play the clip again where she said that?
What, you're out of context clip, Champ? Yeah, go for it.
How is it out of context?
Because like I've spoken to her about this and I've watched her videos.
The reason why she wants a two-state solution is because she wants Israel to remain as a Jewish ethno-state. That was what she said multiple times.
So she said
she
the
might
exact
have dialed
words.
Back her opinion.
She said the exact words, I want Israel to remain a Jewish ethno-state. Those are the exact words.
She said,
if there's anything different than that, I'm just going to ignore you.
If Israel is to remain a majority state, meaning majority Jewish state.
Oh, this is the one about
with
the
Western values.
Yeah. This is the argument where she's characterizing the problem with the settlements. That's 30 seconds before that clip.
No, that was nothing to do with the settlements. She was stating that the only reason that she's against settlements is because it will dilute the Jewish character of Israel.
Do you know who made?
And there are a lot of right-wing Israelis with this opinion. She's in complete agreement with them there. Settlements aren't bad because we're stealing land because they're unjust. They're bad because they're going to dilute the ethnic character of our country, and eventually we're going to have no option but to annex all of Palestine. And then it won't be a Jewish ethnic state anymore. We're going to be outnumbered. They're going to vote us out. That is that position.
I'm sorry, like you're making shit up. Like she's characterizing another position.
She's not characterizing other positions. I think, to me, you got to be fucking with me.
That is actually a good reason, by the way, given that Israel is pretty right-wing. If you want to like say the problems with a one-state, I mean, this is, you know what's really fucked up about that clip is that I heard an almost identical argument coming from Chomsky, saying that this is the inevitable.
Yeah, Chomsky is also a two-statist.
Well,
and I'm pretty sure he's a two-statist. And I'm pretty sure he's a two-statist for ethnic reasons too. So he's a piece of shit as well.
I don't think he's a two-statist for ethnic reasons. You think I'm emotionally
attached to Chomsky?
I don't think he's a two-statist for ethnic reasons.
Well, maybe not, but either way,
why did you say
Chomsky can be wrong. Chomsky is wrong about like 90% of what he says.
I know he's wrong about that, but I wouldn't call him like a pro-Zionist for believing that, especially since he also believes one-state solution long-term. Like believing in two-state solution doesn't mean that one-state solution isn't also possible in the future, right? I feel like a one-state solution is probably easier to achieve if there was like peace, right? Given that you have areas, especially like in the Galilee Valley, where there's already very intertwined communities. I feel like it's easier to advocate for dissolving the borders further when there aren't fucking troops all over the place, right? You still there?
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, sorry. I'm not against these little band-aid solutions to start with.
Good.
Right?
So you agree with Eris. Carry on.
The fact of the matter is, if you frame it like, for example, as, oh, we just need to end the occupation, We just need to, quote unquote, apartheid. You're not really getting to the root of the problem at all. You're not getting to the crux of the problem, which is Israeli settler colonialism. Right? All of these things, these little gradual steps, these are steps towards ending Israeli settler colonialism.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that we should just retreat from the position of accurately characterizing Israel as what it is, from advocating for these longer term, far better solutions.
Mm-hmm. So you agree with Eris? That's interesting. That's refreshing.
Opinion. I can play her opinion again if you're trying to say that I agree with her.
Yeah, you can play her out of context bullshit. That's her characterizing someone else's position.
Out of context
she's
bullshit.
Like a measured person. Yeah, go on.
Her characterizing someone else's opinion, which she never said that she was doing at any moment in a 2-hour-long reaction that she did. Her professing multiple. Why are you so attached to like defending this person who's clearly a massive piece of shit?
I'm not attached to defending her. You're the one who keeps bringing her up. I thought I could just talk to you.
I think, yeah, I'm bringing
You're
her up
the one making it about her. You are the one. This is entirely your choice. Just so you know, this is entirely your choice, right? Just so you know, this is entirely your choice. Huh?
Yeah, and? So what?
Okay. So don't get upset when I defend her if you're the one who keeps bringing it up.
Yeah, you're defending her with complete bullshit. Complete dumb bullshit that doesn't actually sit with the facts.
Okay,
doesn't actually sit with the things that she said.
So you're okay.
She was characterizing someone else's position. I'm sure that's why she said, in my opinion.
Get like a little summary just so we can catch up, right? So you're okay with a two-state solution, Band-Aid solution right now because it might provide more breathing space or room for progress in the future. Eventually, you'd like to see.
Is impossible.
Eventually, you'd like to see a one-state solution.
State solution is completely impossible.
But getting the state of Israel to abolish itself is not impossible, apparently. Okay.
To abolish itself, that doesn't really make sense. Do you think that this hasn't happened in the past, that international pressure cannot force incredibly radical changes in societies, that there do not exist prior examples of this happening? I went over them, and I just wonder if
we can barely get international pressure for a two-state solution, how are we going to get it for a one-state with no Israel?
Have you heard of something like us doing things?
Well, I used to do activism
for our governments.
Yeah. Oh, so what? You want to BDS Israel out of existence? Is that where we're at now?
It worked in South Africa. Why wouldn't it work here?
South Africa didn't abolish itself as a country. It didn't stop existing.
South Africa essentially abolished itself entirely in all practical terms. South Africa abolished minority government, has a new constitution. It's been ruled by black majority governments ever since. In terms of like the character of the state is so completely radically different that to call it like the exact same thing as if it's just the same state just because it has like a certain lineage, it's like calling Russia the continuation of the Soviet Union.
Don't people one of the big criticisms about South Africa is that apartheid ended, but then the same economic stratification stayed barely moved, didn't it? Isn't that one of the big problems?
The economic stratification doesn't particularly mean that the state was not essentially replaced with something radically different.
Okay, but South Africa still exists, right? This is not the same as a state getting abolished by international pressure.
It has the same name. Okay, huge deal.
So you're like,
Russia has the same name.
Did we shift?
Russia
did we just erode all
inherited a lot of the positions of the Soviet Union?
Yeah. So did we
for example, its position on the UN, is Russia the same state as the Soviet Union? Is it the exact same? Do you think there needs to be some sort of ceremonial abolishment of Israel, the Israel abolishment ceremony or something? I don't give a fuck.
Okay, how do we do it then? Without a BDS, we're going to BDS Israel, a nuclear power, into just giving up all its borders and all its crazy, wacky,
You're just restating the same position
dreams.
that I've already responded to.
It's just because it's ridiculous. It's not a solution.
Ridiculous.
It's not advocacy. You're LARPing.
My man,
you're just standing on a hill beating your chest into the void.
I'm buddy, 60% of Palestinians are LARPers, according to you. Interesting position. This is liberalism, right? You're trying to regulate the acceptable spectrum of opinion by framing anything that really goes radically out of the status quo, even a little bit outside of what you deem to be the acceptable positions of the status quo, as unrealistic. It's just LARPing. So this is exactly what I said you do. This is what you and everyone in your sphere does. You try to reframe essentially the most bog standard basic leftist positions as completely unrealistic, impossible. It's liberals do the exact same thing. This would be nice, but it's impossible. So
wait, you're conceding yourself that this can't be done immediately. If we both
I'm not
advocate,
conceding you said
yes,
that because
you are.
I
You
said
just
it can't be
did.
done literally immediately right now. And then you said that I'm LARPing because I advocate for it being worked towards over time.
But that's why I'm asking you, if you're saying we both agree morally with a one-state solution, and we both agree that international pressure should push that.
Morally.
And no, I said we both agree with that. We agree. Oh yeah, you think we should do it like, I don't know, but yeah, I think it should be. It's like practical as well, right? Just more long term. But
so why did you just say that then? If you think it's impossible when you clearly just said you think it's possible?
Because you take people who advocate for two-state solutions like Eris and call them liberals who are just narrowing the lenses of what's possible, which is not what they're doing.
I was calling you that, but her as well.
Me as well. Okay. Even though you agree that,
it's because I based her position off what she said. Okay?
So we can't
said she wants a two-state solution because she thinks that there needs to be a Jewish ethno-state where Jews can be safe.
What did she say? A Jewish ethno-state where Jews can be safe. Why are you adding in the word ethno-state for that?
Because she wants it to be an ethno-state, right? That's why she was worried about the majority Jewish character.
She has never said she wants it to be an ethno-state. You're lying. You're just making shit up.
Okay, let's play the clips again.
Let's play the clip again. Where we have no idea. We have no idea what the context is. Yeah, go on.
She's never said that. Okay, let's find out.
Are we gonna wait before you play the clip? Before you play the clip, are we gonna before you play the clip? Are we gonna hear the words "I believe Israel should be a Jewish ethno-state"?
Just because she doesn't say the ethno-state doesn't mean that she doesn't think it should be an ethno-state.
Look, you don't have it. Okay, that's fine.
Majority Jewish state.
You don't have it. Wait.
Do they need to use the words literally ethno-state?
Is she gonna wait? Does she say I believe Israel should be a?
Does Likud use the word ethno-state? No, they don't.
Does she say I believe Israel should be a majority Jewish state?
Yeah.
She says I believe.
She needs to preface it like let's see, bud. You think she's not stating? She said, I think it's totally fine for Israel to be a Jewish state where Jews can be safe. Blah blah blah.
That's different.
And she also said
She also
said that we can't allow Arabs to essentially dilute the Jewish character of this state. We can't let them become the
She said
the
we can't let them.
Or whatever.
She
has to literally
phrase
it in the exact terms that I'm summarizing, right?
Well, because this is the problem. You're incapable of assessing people's opinions. You can't do it.
Holy shit, you're just denying reality here.
Wait,
Let's play the clips again. I'll play each one individually, right? And then I'll stop after each one. And
I've heard the clip.
Together, okay?
Okay, go for it.
Well, you apparently couldn't tell which one was which, so let's do that. The fake nervous laughing doesn't work, dude.
It's real laughter. You are very funny to me.
You do a population exchange, it's very hard to reverse the change because you basically just recreate the problem even worse when you try to reverse it. And this is one of the problems with the Palestinians having the right to return because they want to take up space. They want to, come return, and they're a much larger population now.
We're stopping that one.
Okay, that's the first clip. What do you think about that?
Okay, so she said if you do a population exchange, the effects are sometimes worse, right?
Yeah, and she's using that as an argument for right of return.
Okay, so that's again, we're talking about a hypothetical where right of return means like potentially like 1 million plus people from Palestine come to
and why
Israel.
does she not want them to come?
And then what happens?
There's no space.
There's also.
Do you understand where there's no space argument comes from? For one, a fellow named Frederick Ratzel.
Okay, wait. Remind me. Remind me when it comes to space. Then let's say that right of return happens, and say 1 million Palestinian refugees want to go back. What happens to the people who live there? So some of these people might be like third generation, right? Like, what happens to them?
Mm-hmm.
Do we just evict them?
Do you think that you steal a house, it's not stolen anymore, if you give it to your kids? Is that how things work anywhere in the world?
Well, most refugees don't get generational right for return. That's just for Palestinians. I'm just asking you, what do we do? How do we do that?
Most refugees can just return because that country hasn't literally been obliterated.
So I'm asking you then, let's say many millions of Palestinians, or even a few 100,000, decide they're going to go back. They're going to go and live in where they were kicked out of, whatever, or their families. And the people who live there don't want to. What happens? What do we do?
What happens in any other situation in the world where this happens? Question for you, my friend.
Well, we kick them out, right?
Question for you, my friend.
You boot them out with nowhere to go, right?
Was it wrong
and then
to
you get
kick
a war.
German settlers out of Poland after World War II? Yes or no?
German, like what? Like troops?
German settlers who literally settled Poland.
Was it wrong to kick German settlers out of... Were there... How many German settlers... You can tell me about this. Go on, elaborate.
About 800,000 in Poland.
Okay. And how long were they there for?
They went there. Okay, let's change it then if you want to make it something about length, because apparently settler colonialism just stops, after an arbitrary length of time. Okay, let's say
I'm not asking you about
the Nazis
moral.
The Nazis
I'm asking you about
I'm
how
framing
you do
this
it.
in the correct terms. Okay? The Nazis win World War II.
Okay.
Their settlers have babies who take over their houses. Are the houses now theirs?
I would say that you get to a point where time passes and you get to a point where reversing history isn't actionable. This was clearly actionable because the Nazis lost the war, right?
Is Crimea Russian? It's been 8 years now.
I would say it's been, I would say, honestly, if the exchange was peace in exchange for Crimea, yeah, unfortunately, I think it's already becoming a reality that Crimea has to go, yeah.
Well, I'm saying like morally, right?
Not of course not. Morally, we agree, okay? Yeah.
Okay.
Morally, Crimea should go back to Ukraine, but practically, I don't know. How likely is that? The Tatars are fucked, okay, but like what? Do you think like Ukraine's going to fight a war over Crimea? Like, if that's like the last territory?
A lot of people in this political opinion sphere seem to think that they should. And I don't think they even want to.
Well, I mean, they're managing to get Kharkiv back right now, so that's like there are some areas where it's seems
I don't want to go off on a
realistic.
tangent, but I think we agree on this.
Yeah. So the question is, you've got like a lot of Israelis who you consider who are settlers in Israel. I would agree. The people who get right for return decide to go back. The settlers say, no, we live here. What happens?
Well, generally, when people occupy your land, right, and you try to take it back and they say no, you use violence.
Yeah, so you want a war.
To get rid of them.
But that's what will happen, right? That's will happen.
I don't want a war. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think what's going to happen is that accommodations are going to need to be made for the returning Palestinians that do not involve that happening.
What do you mean? So what? They build different houses?
Build different houses, perhaps selectively, when there's like some more direct proof of, them owning this particular land or whatever, that they should be able to get it back.
So the settlers do get to stay. To avoid a war, the settlers get to stay.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Okay. I mean, it's pretty similar to Aristotle's position.
Do you think that decolonization involves like mass deportation of literally every single person?
Well, that's the argument when it comes to right of return, is that like there's a lot of circumstances that you have to consider, because some people would consider right of return is they get to go back to their houses. I don't know if you know about like
I think
I'm sure you do, but like when it comes to
achievable.
like Palestine, yeah, of course, I agree, and that's why like when there are people in like Lebanon who are refugees from Palestine, they've still kept the keys to their old houses. I've seen the big rusty keys,
right?
and like they expect, and a lot of them expect to go back to their old homes, right?
Yeah, that's the thing.
How actionable is that?
They're going to have actual proof that this was theirs. The fact of the matter is, though, that a lot of them probably aren't, because the way that land ownership and shit worked in the Ottoman Empire was incredibly very loose. Most people didn't really have any technical right to the land. So proving anything is going to be very difficult, but a lot of them can still prove it. And in that case, yeah, I think they should be able to get their homes back. Why not?
But that means we do kick out the people who live there now.
We do that all the time anyway. What's the difference here?
It's just whether or not you think that's...
all over the time, all around the world.
Well, it's just...
Why not here?
It's just whether or not you think it's the best solution.
Why is it a special case?
I don't think it's a special... It's just whether or not you think it's the best solution in this case.
I absolutely think it's the best solution. It's the only righteous solution. It's the only just solution.
Even if it means a war?
I don't think it would start a war, because to get to this point in the first place, war would already have to be off the table.
How do you get war off the table when Israel is like armed to the fucking teeth with nuclear weapons? Like
South Africa was armed to the fucking teeth with nuclear weapons.
Okay. So how do you make sure there's not a war?
Do you think like you're just gonna like start immediately evicting people like all in one day? I don't understand how you.
Well, the thing is that your rhetoric has gotten a lot softer.
The thing is, I think here's the thing that I think, right? Your entire being seems to be advocated to essentially saying paying lip service to leftist positions, like the most bog standard leftist positions imaginable, and then saying this is not possible.
But you agree that it's not currently possible. There's no disagreement.
Literally immediately not possible, obviously not.
Okay, so we agree.
We don't agree because I think eventually this could absolutely happen.
I said that too. Were you listening? I've said that like 8 times now.
That like Israelis living in stolen houses shouldn't be evicted.
Yeah, I don't. Well, like en masse or like no, I don't think people should be evicted. No.
Well, I think if Palestinians can,
I don't think you're going to get into Israel and evict them without violence.
These places, we're not getting Israel to evict them. This would happen like after the state is already, a single state is already established with a judicial system that can handle this sort of thing. It's not just like, oh, I'm here. I say this is mine. Give me it. Though it should be absolutely.
Okay, so it sounds like the people who live in Israel now and I guess the IDF and the government and all that need to basically lose what, like their military strength, their will to like, if they know this is going to happen, if part of abolishing Israel means people are going to come in and evict them, like, yeah, this is the thing people will fight to the death over. So like, how do you not want a war?
Yeah, there were whites in South Africa who fought to the death over the end of apartheid too. I don't care.
Okay, so you're okay with the war?
It's not going to be a war.
Okay.
It's going to be a crushing of a pathetic little civil insurrection, just like it was in South Africa.
Wow.
Do you think I'm supposed to have mercy for these people? You think I give a fucking shit if some white supremacist is like, oh, you can't appropriate my farm that I fucking stole from your family? Oh no, shut the fuck up.
Well, it's not giving a shit about people who think they deserve to be living on stolen land or whatever. Although again, like second, third generation, I don't really know how far you can go with the blame there. But
it's not about blame. This has nothing to do with blame. We're not like saying, oh, you're morally wrong for happening to be born in this house. Okay. This is not about moral blame. It's about material circumstances. This is what happened. The house was stolen from them. Materially, it was stolen from them. Okay.
So if
There's no moralization there at all.
But you understand, if we do action this, then in parts of the country as well, Palestinians are going to get kicked out because of in exchange for Jewish families who were kicked out in 48, right?
Basically, any Palestinian who lives in these areas.
Okay, go on.
Any Palestinian who lives in these areas, practically the majority of them are there because they've been forced there. And the reason why Jews were expelled from these areas in the first place is essentially as a result of the state of Israel being formed. It was a reaction.
So, I didn't hear a yes or a no there.
No.
So the Palestinians who lived on stolen land gained in 1948, given to them by Jordan, don't get kicked out.
Well, the Palestinians who live on this supposed quote-unquote stolen land, for one, it was mostly taken from settlers in the first place. For two, the entire reason why this...
It wasn't, not in every case. Not in every case. It wasn't just taken from settlers. It was taken from people who lived there for thousands of years. Okay,
I don't give a shit. This land is not part of a settler colonial state. Okay?
Okay.
I'm sure you can point to like some example of like a native person stealing land from some white person which wasn't originally theirs or whatever in the US. I don't fucking care. It's not part of the border structure.
But it would happen though, right? If we're talking about people getting the right over. So if you don't want to answer, it's fine. But if we're applying your logic to the right to get your stolen land back.
If we apply this logic to something that's totally different, not even remotely the same thing.
It's like in the same country.
What you guys always do.
It's in the same city. Like, what are you talking about?
These right now they're definitely not the same country.
Well, we're talking about, this was like, I think this specifically happens in East Jerusalem, right? Like more so than other places.
I really don't give a shit because one of these quote unquote countries is a settler colonial state formed for the specific reason of excluding the people who already lived there beforehand and, forming an ethno state for one specific ethnicity.
Okay, so if you're a Jew who gets kicked out of their land by Jordan in 1948, and that land is given to a Palestinian.
No problem.
You don't
no
have
problem. You went and moved into a Palestinian's house anyway.
You don't.
No big
well,
deal.
no. There are Jews who've been living there since like the 7th century. Okay, maybe even earlier. Okay, this isn't always.
It's
settlers.
no problem because they went and lived in a stolen Palestinian house in Israel.
They didn't. Wait, that didn't
they
necessarily
did. Where did
happen.
they go?
Some of them might have left the country,
they were expelled. Right? They went to They were expelled. Most of them went to Israel. They got the keys to a nice Palestinian house.
Okay, or new houses were built. Okay.
Yeah, but someone else owned that.
Okay,
land
so someone who doesn't get a stolen Palestinian house is kicked out by Jordan in 1948. Doesn't get the right to return to their house.
Who in Israel doesn't live in a stolen Palestinian house?
There were houses in Israel before that the Jews lived in before the Nakba, right?
Yeah, most of them were bought on the lines of Herzl's plan for these quote-unquote Jewish states.
You're saying most of them. I'm asking you about these examples, which happen. They seem to happen fairly like high profile as well. But you're just saying right of return for Palestinians who had their land stolen in 1948, but not for Jews.
You are comparing like these individualistic examples to a systemic structure of settler colonialism.
Well, I'm trying to apply your logic, and that's why your logic.
You're trying to apply my logic to something where it doesn't apply at all. You're trying to apply these individualistic cases of ideas of like, oh, if this guy owns this house, this guy owns this house. That's not what it's about at all. It's about a settler colonial state. It's about the whole state.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about one person and their rights to land. It's not about one person being evicted from land or whatever. It's about the structure of a settler colonial state being dismantled.
Okay, let's make it simple then. The settler colonial state's gone, all right? It's all Palestine. We're just seeing who gets to return where, right? We find out...
Anyone in this state can go wherever the fuck they want.
We find out that a Jewish family was kicked out of East Jerusalem in 1948, but there's a Palestinian living there now. Do the Palestinians have to get kicked out so the Jews can return, assuming the settler colonial state's gone?
No.
Why not?
One of these parties did settler colonialism, the other didn't. Very simple.
So they're all guilty by association.
This is not individualistic. You're trying to make this an individualistic.
So they're guilty by association. Yeah. They're just guilty.
It's not about guilt, not about individual guilt. It's about the material circumstances, okay?
So
we're not talking here about, oh, this person is guilty of this person is guilty of this.
So Jews don't get right of return because
isn't a moral distinction. It's a material one.
So Jews don't get right of return.
I have a question for you, Lorna Bucks. If I own a factory that I inherited from my parents, is it wrong for you to appropriate it from me?
To appropriate a factory that you inherited from your parents?
Yeah, is it?
Why, wait,
I inherited it from my parents.
Can you? Okay,
is it my fault?
Can you explain?
Is it my fault that I own this factory?
Wait, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about Jewish people who were moved off of land that they lived on for that their families lived on for over 1,000 years.
You're making a bunch of random analogies. I'm making one too. Is it okay?
Your analogy doesn't apply.
I'm trying to get you to understand.
Your analogy doesn't make sense. It doesn't apply to right of return.
You're making moralistic arguments here. Your argument here is essentially that these people aren't guilty. Who gives a shit if they're not guilty?
If you can you just
it's not about
okay wait
guilt. It's not about
can you just
them
own the
doing something bad.
Can you just own the position then that even if the settler colonial state of Israel is gone, even if you accept that, you don't think Jews would deserve right of return even if their land was stolen from them?
They would deserve right of return to the Arab countries that they were expelled from. But not to the house. Literal Palestinian victims who are forced to live in essentially what is a fucking reservation.
Even though the Palestinians are allowed to go back.
I'm laying claim to the reservation land, the little bit of reservation land that they still have. Oh, boo fucking who? I don't give a shit.
Okay, so the
problem
Jews,
is the structure of the settler colonial state.
Yeah, the structure,
Israel.
because Jews are guilty by association, right?
You're trying. Oh my God, you would be fucking awesome in the Blairite wing of the Labor Party, dude. You've got it down pat.
Yeah, because unfortunately, some people on the very far left are pretty anti-Semitic. Yeah, I don't know if you realize it, but it's coming through pretty fucking hard.
My man, Keir Starmer needs you on his PR team.
I hate Keir Starmer, but
excellent. Oh yeah, I'm sure you do. I am sure you fucking do, my man.
Okay, is there anything else that you want to talk about?
Yeah,
I left. Oh God. Oh, that was fucking crazy. Holy shit. Jesus Christ.
Wait, law? What are you, a
fucking liberal? Hey, Poco, thanks for the Prime sub. Dare to beam, thank you.
Wait. Wait, law? What are you, a fucking liberal?
Rev Dork with the 5 gifted tier 1 subs. Thank you so much. Are you going to post this on YouTube? Yeah, sure. Nice one. Oh, he's trying to call me again. Okay, tell you what. Since there's 750 of you here, right? The Israeli occupation of Palestine is fucking disgusting, okay? I think if someone wanted to describe it, the behavior in Gaza as like an incremental genocide, of course, yeah? It's fucking horrible. The settlements are disgusting. You know what? There are things that international pressure can do that have worked at least with like undermining the confidence in the regime and wanting Israelis to push for a more peaceful solution, one of which involves not calling every Israeli a blood and soil Nazi settler. But anyway, I can maybe tell you my story. If you want to get involved in putting pressure on the state of Israel, there's a very popular thing called BDS, right? This is like a big thing that individual activists can do. It's like very tangible. We did it in my university, actually, when I was studying. We did a BDS campaign because our university was connected to a few Israeli universities. But there's a few things you have to consider, right? The problem is pro-Israel propaganda is fucking insane. People will call you like anti-Semitic over nothing, but you can make it difficult for them. So one thing that's really interesting in BDS is not just boycott all of Israel, okay? There are parts of Israel that like Haifa, where there's like just as many Palestinians as there are Jews and Christians. Like it's a very multi-ethnic community, right? You don't want to target like all of Israel, but what you can do is if you target very specific points of the regime. So a really good example of BDS actually having an effect was the boycott of the Jordan Valley, because currently for a few years, the Jordan Valley has been slowly being colonized and taken over by Israeli settlers, and boycotting products from the Jordan Valley slows that process down. And actually even like stops it from being able to go further, because they like Israel doesn't actually have that much money to do what it's doing, right? It's an expensive, like self-consuming operation, right? Now, when it comes to BDS as a university, there's even more possibilities. So what you can do for the university, there's a few mistakes you can make. One mistake that you make in BDS as a university is cutting off all ties with Israel as like any academic ties, right? Like the American Students Association, I think they were called, American Studies Association, did like a boycott Israel campaign, like full on boycott all of Israel. And the problem there was that, you know, well, what if there's like a Palestinian student who goes to Haifa University, right? They can't do an exchange anymore. They can't, like, yeah, this is really fucking dumb, right? So obviously the discussion became about academic freedom and like anti-Semitism. But what you can do is there are specific universities in Israel that are very aggressively tied into the IDF, right? So what we did at my university was, our university was connected to Bar Ilan. And Bar Ilan explicitly engages in the development of military vehicles. Like, so they are full, like knee deep into the occupation. So if you boycott them, it's very easy to justify to people. So you like boycott Bar Ilan or Hebrew University or Ariel Campus, and then they can be like, well, why these places? And then it's like, well, because they're this one's connected to the IDF in this way, this one in this way, and all that, right? These are like tangible things that you can sell to the public, because political reality is that most people don't know fucking anything about Israel. And if they see someone saying boycott all of Israel, then they might well call you anti-Semitic and all that. It's harder to defend, right? So yeah, that's like, those are my two recommendations, is like either consumer BDS or like through your university. Because I imagine a lot of your students, there almost definitely will be like a Free Palestine movement in your, there will almost definitely be a Free Palestine movement in your university. You should join them. See how they feel about like the rhetoric and, you know, all the things to advocate for and how to pressure the governments and things like that. Third thing, actually, if you want to stop Israel, is fucking vote, right? Biden is shit on Israel. He basically goes with this whole we should recognize Israel as a Jewish state, which is basically pro-colonialism. But what you can do is you can say, well, Biden wouldn't have recognized Jerusalem. Very unlikely that he would have made the first move there, right? And we have very pro-Israel voices in the Democratic Party. Ilhan Omar is like long-term one-state solution. She said that in the past. So, yeah, I think that's absolutely something that you can get involved with. So those are 3 things you can do. What you don't do is go on Twitter and call people fucking colonizers because they have Hebrew in their Twitter bios. Maybe don't do that. Yeah, definitely don't call people colonizers because they have Hebrew in their names. You can be anti-Zionist and have Hebrew and speak Hebrew. My dad can speak a wee bit of Hebrew because it sounds really close to like Arabic. So yeah, isn't Talib Palestinian? I didn't know that. You mean we shouldn't go on Twitter and call Jewish people Zionists? You know what? Like, two-state solution would imply like an old meaning of Zionism, like that Israel exists. Yeah, that would be a version of Zionism. It's not one that exists anymore to any great degree. That is the position that Eris subscribes to, short term. I'm pretty sure she's like a no borders advocate, but okay. Yeah. Oh well, that was fun. He tried to say he never said all this. You're calling him
IDF and shit. Yeah, he's a colonizer. He's a colonizer. All Israelis are colonizers.
So he does.
That's
So all Israelis deserve the wall.
If they support
you can't say that.
settler colonialism
Okay.
and the terrorist IDF, yeah, sure, why not?
They just deserve the wall.
Yeah, sure, why not? If they support the fucking literal IDF, the SS of our age,
wait,
absolutely.
You said all Israelis, now we're saying ones who support the IDF. You realize these are different people, right?
The guy who you're referring to here, was straight up defending...
Yeah, I mean, he's got tweets where he said all Israelis are blood and soil Nazi settlers. So, like, yeah, he's just a bit fucking Weasley Deasley. All Israelis are blood and soil. Yeah. Very grumble, grumble, grumble. Very sussy wussy. Curious. Even if you disagree with the IDF, even if you... Yeah, this self-contained tweet is out of context. True.